So I kind of feel like the C-section affected our bonding just because, again, like I was relying on Will to do most of the stuff that, if I had a vaginal delivery, obviously I would have still been in pain, but I would be able to get up and do it kind of like on my own. So like, I don't know, like I felt like me getting up, if she was in her like little bassinet thing inside the hospital or even at home, it would take a lot for me to be able to like get up and hold her or do skin to skin or anything like that, versus it was easy to kind of just like turn to the side, toss the bottle in her mouth in the bassinet and keep it moving, instead of being able to hold her and do this and get up and walk around with her and things like that. But all in all, like she adores me. Most times I am what can calm her down. I am what she looks for comfort, things like that. So I don't think, it's affected our relationship thus far. But initially in the beginning, I do feel like it hindered our ability to be able to like connect on a motherly child level at the time. My name is Janaya Douglas. I am from Baltimore, Maryland, and I gave birth at Mercy Hospital. Okay, so I plan to vlog. That's my intention. That's what I really want to do and what I want to kind of like make my passion. However, I currently work from home. I'm an adjudicator for the state of Maryland. And yeah. So I found out that I was pregnant in March of 2020. She was a COVID baby. And I didn't have very many complications, none at all really. I didn't have to take like more than once a glucose test or anything like that. I didn't really have any like specific complications. My doctor was concerned about my weight gain during pregnancy, but it was really like nothing I could really do to kind of like avoid that. I was eating, and that was pretty much what contributed to the weight gain. So I had started going to my OBGYN when I was 18 or 19. And we had a pretty good relationship. I had only seen her maybe like once or twice prior to me finding out that I was pregnant. And she was very nice. She was very nice, and actually, she wasn't the one who delivered me, because she was having a baby herself. So she had went out on maternity leave in October, and I was due in December. She didn't come back until January, so she was there up until when I was about 7 or 8 months pregnant. And then shortly after that, again, she went on maternity leave. But we did have a good relationship, and I was excited. I was actually crushed because she did not reveal that she was pregnant to me. And then I had found out that she was pregnant like maybe 2 weeks before she was leaving, and I was thinking about getting a midwife because I wanted to make sure that I had established a relationship with the person that was going to be delivering me, because I wanted to make sure, that we were kind of like understanding each other, and they knew like, what I was expecting and vice versa. But that didn't happen because when I found out she was pregnant, it was already late, and I was just like, they had actually brought in the doctor who was going to be delivering me, who was supposed to be. However, it was pretty much, late in my pregnancy, so I was just kind of like a little bit bummed. But the doctor who was supposed to be delivering me was really nice. I had scheduled an induction for the day after the day after I actually had given birth. But it wasn't any doctor that I had knew who actually had delivered me, because I ended up having a C-section. So I was due December the 16th, and December the 16th came, and I wasn't dilating at all. And then she was like, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to kind of like wait, or do you want to schedule? She was like, we don't want you to go past 41 weeks, basically. And I was like, like I'm comfortable with scheduling an induction. And for one, it was better that way because Will was trying to get a new job. So in order for he had to like qualify, and it was kind of really like no taking days off, but they get holidays off. So I was like, I'll schedule it for Friday, December 25th. And they're like, you're going to spend your Christmas in the hospital. I'm like, well, it's convenient. I was able to schedule on a day that I knew he would have off, so I knew we got the opportunity to be there. So I started having contractions on December the 23rd around like 10 o'clock at night. And I had never felt contractions before, so I was just kind of like brushing it off. We had went to hip hop. We got some food. If I knew that would have been my last meal, I would have chosen a different place because it was disgusting, and I ended up not eating it. I set it on the stairs. I was like, I'm not eating this. So around like maybe 12, it progressed to where the contractions were like uncomfortable, but I was still like, let me try to like, push through it, because I don't want, my whole mindset the whole entire time was, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want to go there and they'd be like, oh no, it's not contracting. And Will's like, I need you to let me know if you think you're going to have the baby, because that means I can't go to work. And I'm like, nah, I'll be fine. Things are fine. And then 1 o'clock rolled around, and I was like, this is getting bad. I was holding Will, waking him up out of his sleep, just going crazy because the contractions were so like intense. And I had called my doctor around like 2 a.m. and I said, hey, like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm in pain. And she's like, do you think you're having contractions? I'm like, I don't know what contractions feel like. She's like, they feel like period cramps. I'm like, I haven't had a period in so long, I don't remember what they feel like. So she was like, you're not really telling me much. I'm not really sure what to say. She was like, just come in and, we'll see where you are, because you're not really giving me any signs of whether you're in labor or not. And I had began to lose my mucus plug like the night before. So that's when I knew like, something was going to happen. So I had laid back down because I'm like, I'm just going to go back I'm going to try to go to sleep, because I hadn't been to sleep all night basically, because the contractions again were so intense. And I end up, every time I had a contraction, I would go to the bathroom because I felt like I had to poop, but nothing was coming out. So that's how I knew, like, obviously labor was progressing. I went to the bathroom, I pulled the light. I had a contraction while pulling the string to the light. The entire light fell from the ceiling. So at that point I said, well, it's time to go, because I was like, I ain't cleaning that up. And I don't even feel like cleaning it up. I don't even want to think about cleaning it up. So yeah, it's time to go to the hospital. So we got up, we went. I pulled up to the hospital. I put up to the wrong side. They're going to tell me, it was like 2 or 3 a.m. So obviously the doors are like locked. And they're like, oh, you need to go to labor and delivery. I'm like, bruh, I'm having contractions. I don't care how I get there, but I need to get there. So we had drove, like it was a little bit up the street. It was on off of St. Paul. We had drove the street and we walked in and everything, and they had checked me and they were saying, like, oh, I was only 3 centimeters. In order to kind of get admitted, you had to be at 4, and they would see if the doctor wanted to keep me, because she was about to change shifts basically. So I had scheduled again my induction for the 25th. This is all taking place on the 24th, and the doctor who was supposed to deliver me on the 25th didn't come in until 5 a.m. But my doctor had came in, or the doctor who was there at that point was leaving at 3. And in between all of this, she wasn't coming in until 5 a.m. on the 25th. Again, this is the 24th. Between all this, another doctor had came in. It was a guy, which Will was like completely uncomfortable. But there was also a midwife. So had I had a vaginal delivery, I would have had the midwife. But being as I had a C-section, I had a guy doctor. And everything was okay up until, which I don't want to make it seem like this was like a horrible experience, because I was comfortable. I was like, whatever it takes to get the baby here. And I'm going to be honest in saying, like, my mistake, I think, in this pregnancy was being as though it was my first. I didn't do much research. I just was kind of like, I trust my doctor, but she wasn't there. All the person I had instilled my trust into wasn't there to deliver me. So they came in and they had gave me Pitocin. This was probably, I got my epidural around like 9 a.m. And they gave me Pitocin around maybe like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And they were coming in and telling me, turn on your side. We're going to do the ball in between your legs, and kept telling me, twist and turn and do this and do that. Need I remind you, like, I just got an epidural, so it was difficult for me to be able to like turn this way and turn this way, because I'm like, bro, I can't even feel, down there or anything like that. So they had kept telling me to turn, and they're like, oh, like, she is not doing good with the contractions. But we kept going. Hours and hours passed, and maybe around like 9 o'clock, they were like, yeah, no, like, it's just not looking good. And I had asked the midwife, I said, is she going to be okay? And they're like, we're trying to figure that out now. And that completely like threw me off, because I'm like, what do you mean you're trying to see? Like, she better be okay. Because she was okay, prior to this, so she better be okay. So they were like, yeah, no, we're thinking you're going to have a C-section, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe like 30 minutes later, a whole bunch of a team, maybe 6 or 7 doctors had rushed in, and they were like, yeah, you're gonna have to have a C-section. At that point, I pretty much knew what to expect, and they were like, oh, you gotta take your belly rings out and this, that, and the third. And I kind of just shut down. I started crying because I was like, I'm 22. I've seen my friends push out babies. It's 3 of my friends, actually. One was in a different hospital and one was actually at this hospital, and they are people that I knew from Instagram, and one I went to elementary school with when we were kids. They were all having their babies too, and one of them did have to have a C-section as well. But the other one, I'm like, she's able to push her baby out, perfectly fine. So what is the situation? And I think at that point, as a woman, you begin to kind of doubt yourself and wonder what is your body not doing right that has, had to put you kind of in this situation to have a C-section. This is what we do. We push our babies. Why is it that, my circumstances have changed? But they took me back. They prepped me or whatever. They took me back. And all in all, the C-section was a pretty good experience. I had to just kind of keep reminding myself kind of what I'm doing it for, and that it was necessary in order for me to kind of stay sane through it, because it was frantic. I felt oh my God, I don't know, I'm an animal or something, sitting on a table. It was so many people and so many parts and so many different moving parties. I was just completely confused. Again, I never really researched, so I definitely didn't research a C-section. So I really didn't know what to expect. I was like, please, Jesus, just help me get out of here. Safety in one piece. You hear so many stories about Black women, it being discrepancy in care. And I had a Black doctor, so I was hoping, that this will have went well. Although my normal OBGYN was white, I still trusted her as well. But with him, I never had any experiences with him, so I wasn't really sure kind of what to expect. But all in all, it was a pretty scary experience, just going from thinking that you having a normal birth to being put on the table and cut open and cut through many layers. And it was difficult. And then when we went to recovery, it was a very difficult experience for me because I wasn't able to do as much as I wanted to do. Actually, when the birth, it was embarrassing because the birth registrar walked in, the nurse, and they were coming in to do her name and things like that. And I peed on the floor because I was trying to get up to use the bathroom, and I was, obviously holding it was painful, and I just couldn't hold it anymore, and I peed on the floor, and I just bust out crying and apologizing to everybody. And they're like, girl, you just had a baby. I'm like, I know, but this is so bad. It was crazy. But I mean, I could say the best part of the experience was the aftercare. I felt having all the hands of help. You ring a bell, somebody bringing you ice. You ring a bell, somebody's bringing you food. So it was a good experience after. I was just a little concerned as to how we even had got to that point, if I'm being honest. My significant other, Will, he was the only person there with me during delivery. I feel as though, having a woman there probably would have been a little bit better. It would have been a more of a support kind of thing. Will was asleep when I got my epidural. He was asleep through half of me, sitting on the bed, everything like that. I can say that after having the baby, I didn't do anything. He did everything. Changed diapers, fed her, cradle her if necessary. I didn't move a finger. And I was really appreciative of his effort to kind of make sure that I was doing well, because it was hard for me. It was very, very, very hard. Even, after having a baby, your body, it takes a while to get back into kind of feeling like yourself. And it took a lot. It's still taking a lot. Every day you try on something, they don't fit, So he did his best in that moment while I was in the hospital to kind of still make me feel whole, because I felt of course, prior to me delivering, my body was solidified. I'm pregnant, so this is what it is. But then the baby's gone, and it's I'm left with all this extra stuff. But he did his best. But prior to, he was asleep. But that was also because he got off work pretty late, and then he was up all night because I was having contractions. So when he finally got there and I got the epidural, he's like, bye. But he went to sleep. And I even got the nurse. I tried to get the nurse to wake him up, and she's having to push him really hard. And I'm like, lady, you're going to have to push him real hard because that boy can sleep. But I wasn't able to have visitors due to COVID. If there was no COVID, I still would have wanted to be the same way. Being as though it was both of our first time having a kid, I wanted it to be a very intimate experience. I didn't want all the hands and this and that and telling you kind of how to do things. I wanted it to be just us and us really learning how to like do this together, because we ultimately are going to be the people who rely on each other in, parenting. So I didn't want too many hands. If you had any questions, you would call, but other than that, no. So when it came to healing from my C-section, it was rough. And mainly because Will had went back to work like literally that Monday. We left the hospital on Sunday. He had work on Monday. And CO kept us up all night. All night. She would not sleep for a second. And I was, trying to be a good person and like getting up and trying to do stuff myself while he's sleeping. And it was weighing on me. I could barely roll over. I was trying not to take the medicine they gave me because I'm like, I don't like the feeling. When I had took that medicine in the hospital, I was talking about superheroes and some more stuff. And I was like, I do not want to feel like that again. So I had tried to stop taking it once we got home because I knew I would be primarily doing things myself. I needed to be in my best shape. And it was rough. I felt like, oh my gosh, I should have stayed in the hospital another night to try to get myself some more rest because it was crazy. And I honestly felt like that. I'm not going to say it. You know how like they say take it easy so that way you don't, make yourself scar even worse. I felt like I wasn't taking it easy. I was up and down the steps, everything. So it was crazy. I feel like I did keloid. I lost some feeling down there. And all in all, like it's hard for me to look at the scar because it's just like, I don't know. Of course, my daughter was worth it. I don't regret it at all. But it's just like, I would never feel comfortable wearing a bikini again because it's like, that's there. The skin is hanging over. It's this. Like, you just feel all in all like slightly uncomfortable with yourself, especially because I was a person that I was like, just kind of like, like getting confident in myself. And then this comes and it's like, you have so many different imperfections. I end up from pregnancy getting stretch marks on my arms and stretch marks on my waist and this and that. So it's just like, your body has all these different changes. And then you have to adapt to that along with, being a parent. And sometimes like realizing your own like imperfections, it can affect you as a person. But when you become a mom, all of that has to kind of go to the side because you still have to be your best self in order to kind of be a mom. And it's so much weight on your shoulder. Dad can slack. Mom, you can't. Not one bit. The minute you don't do something, you don't get the baby dressed for a day, it's like you're the worst parent ever. That's what it feels like. And then some people, that's what it can look like you're slacking or you're not doing your best. But people don't really, I guess, take in mind like the toll that it weighs on you. And people will like, try to raise awareness about postpartum depression and the impact that it can have. But realistically, like when it comes to being in that instance, people don't really take into account what you could be going through. They just look at like, the things that you're not doing instead of really looking at the things that they could do to kind of like help you do better. But in terms of healing from the C-section, I feel like, the doctors say the scar looks good. My doctor told me, when we have another baby, she was like, I don't see a reason why you won't be able to push your baby out. But when I talked to my primary care physician, she didn't tell me, obviously, from an OBGYN perspective, because that's not her specialty. But she did tell me she had to have a C-section, and then she ended up having another C-section, and she was saying that thank God she didn't push because the skin was so thin there that she would have ruptured. And that's something I don't want to encounter. I don't feel, if I have to get a C-section anyway, what's the point of me even trying to push? So I do plan on just continuing to pursue the C-sections if we were to have more kids, because I don't want to, you don't know what it looks like underneath there and how thin the skin may be or anything like that. So you don't want to put yourself, in a even worse predicament with far as, healing and things like that. So I don't know. She says it looks good, but I'm just like, I don't even know what it's supposed to look like, to be honest with you. So I guess if you say it looked good, then it looked good. But I did keloid, and she told me that when we have other kids, if I do decide to get a C-section, we can remove the keloid and, inject something that will maybe stop it from happening. But I don't know how I feel about, the whole injecting things, because I'm just like, if that's what my body is doing, I'm assuming it's because it's necessary to kind of like make sure I'm healing, So I don't really know. I'm just, it's a bunch of unknown things, I feel like, and if you ask questions, obviously they could try to provide you with answers, but I feel like being as though this was such a something that happened like so abruptly, I will never truly be satisfied with the answers that I get. You could tell me, like, if I asked you why I had to get a C-section, you say it was for the baby to get here, it was for the best. But why? Like, and you could say something, and if I don't understand it, then it turns into one question to like 25 different ones. So I just take it for what it is. All in all, I lost some feeling, but I guess I healed pretty well. We were staying with his grandmother, and she was a big help when it came to me, like, working and things like that. Although, like, I was still obviously running up there and, bringing bottles or Pampers or anything like that was needed to care for her. But she would hold on to her while I was working. I went back to work like a month after I had the baby, but I was working from home, so it was no big deal. But I think that I'm also very, like, self-reliant and self-sufficient. I think that was my biggest downfall as well, because I don't like asking for help, especially because I look at it like there are a million mothers who have to do this alone, so I don't mind that. It was just like, I feel like, pretty tough on my body to still be trying to do everything alone, running up and down the steps and doing this, making bottles and this every, 2 to 3 hours, along with me trying to breastfeed, along with this, along with that. It was a handful. I wish I would have, asked for more help. I obviously, she was great, but you're obviously more comfortable with your family. Like, I can be like, hey, mama, my grandmother, help me. But I don't want to ask anybody else for help, because I want them to feel like, dang, why are you asking me? You know what I'm saying? Granted, I know that wouldn't have been the case. It's just more like a thing within myself of feeling like I don't want to, like, overstep my boundaries and asking for help, or, but she would definitely always offer to take the baby, and I'd be like, no, I got it. Knowing dang well I'm in pain, I'm tired, like everything, but I'll be like this, no, I got it. I have shut everything, like, just tired, but you do what you gotta do. So I kind of feel like the C-section affected our bonding, just because, again, like, I was relying on Will to do most of the stuff that, if I had a vaginal delivery, obviously I would have still been in pain, but I would be able to get up and do it kind of like on my own. So, like, I don't know, like, I felt like me getting up, if she was in her, like, little bassinet thing inside the hospital or even at home, it would take a lot for me to be able to, like, get up and hold her or do skin to skin or anything like that, versus it was easy to kind of just, like, turn to the side, toss the bottle in her mouth in the bassinet and keep it moving, instead of being able to hold her and do this and get up and walk around with her and things like that. But all in all, like, she adores me. Most times I am what can calm her down. I am what she looks for comfort, things like that. So I don't think, it's affected our relationship thus far. But initially, in the beginning, I do feel like it hindered our ability to be able to, like, connect on a motherly child level at the time. So I breastfed for 3 months. I stopped and even started again after 3 months because I was still producing milk. It did not work, so I cut it off. But it was difficult because they want the baby to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And you still got to make bottles. You got to pump every 2 to 3 hours. You want sleep. And you got to care for a baby still. It was difficult. They would be like, Mom, get some rest, but don't forget to feed the baby and pump and feed yourself and shower, but give some time and, be alone and have some time, free time. But, don't forget about the baby, make sure they're doing well, and SIDS and this and that. So every 3 seconds I'm up like, oh my God, is she breathing? Is she breathing? So I didn't really have time. I was trying to pump every 2 to 3 hours, but they say sleep when babies sleep, but when babies sleep, you're supposed to pump, and when babies sleep, you're supposed to do this and wash bottles and this and clean and do. It became too much where I just was like, I am not doing this. And on top of that, like, the pump that I had was, like, not the best. to me compared to the one that we had in the hospital. So I was just like, yeah, no, this isn't working. And I had tried to order a pump through my insurance, which took like 2 to 3 months to come. So then when it finally did come, I tried to, revamp pumping, but I just was like, yeah, this isn't for me. And I still have my pumping things like that because I'm optimistic about us having more kids. And I'm like, I'm going to try this again, the whole breastfeeding thing, but I really don't know how it'll work out. I don't know if fed is best, in my opinion. You do what you can. And if you feel like breastfeeding is just putting too much pressure on yourself, then just drop it. We as mothers we take on so many roles. We are a feeder regardless, whether we're feeding the baby by bottle. We don't have to like stress our bodies out to and I was also trying to increase my milk supply. I wasn't producing enough, so that still needed, I had to have formula. It was too many parts to kind of make that thing a whole dream. So I just was like, yeah, no, maybe the next go around when I'm more comfortable and kind of know what to expect also while I was in pain. So I didn't have the breast pump bra, so I'm sitting up trying to hold it on there. My stomach's hurt, she's crying. Just every time she would cry, I had to drop the pump and go tend to her so that at least the milk's spilling. I just was like, yeah, forget that. My biggest takeaway from this whole entire experience is to research. I have friends who were telling me research, read this, do birthing class. I'm like, I don't need that mess. This will be a breeze. And it wasn't. It was not a breeze. I wish that I had researched more. I wish that I had confided in the women in my life more and asked more questions. Anytime my doctor would ask me if I had questions, I would be like, no, but if I do have questions, I will reach out. And I never really did. I just kind of took everything within me and kind of try to figure it out on my own. And I think that was the biggest thing. If I had questions, it would be very faint, and let's just say I asked a question and they gave me an answer and I was still concerned about the answer, I would just, chuck it up and take it for what it was. I wouldn't, extend more questions based off that. I would just kind of try to be comfortable with the answer that I was given. And now I know not to do that, because then you wind up in situations where it's a bunch of gray areas, why things happen, how things happen, and what to do to kind of avoid that again. So my biggest takeaway is research, ask questions, utilize the people in your corner, your resources, the women in your life who have gone through, same things, and get dad to do some research so he can be more prepared for situations. Men stem off of their women. I don't care what guys say, they can be as Brazilian and self-reliant as they want to be, but you feed off of the energy that your woman is giving. And if she's concerned, you're concerned. And if neither one of y'all know what to do, then you're screwed, right? So men, research and do your best to kind of be there for, your significant other, regardless of kind of the circumstance. That way somebody's knowledgeable in this situation, because when it came to me having to have a C-section, me and Will both looking at each other what is even a C-section, and why does it even happen? So definitely research and just, become more in tune with yourself and your body, and knowing what your body is asking for or what your body needs to kind of help you go through situations. So I currently still see my same OBGYN. She's great, and I recommend her to people when people ask me about OBGYNs. I do include the fact that she is white. But I felt safe, and I felt I could be oh, I think this is wrong. And she wouldn't be you're fine. She would be I'll test you for whatever you want, me to test you for, or run whatever test you want. And because I don't want to, basically, she didn't want to shut me out and something truly be wrong. So she'll be I think you're fine, but I'm going to run tests regardless, and we'll see what comes back. So she made me feel really comfortable and confiding in her about my concerns. Life now, can be a bit crazy some days. Some days I don't feel like mothering. And the biggest thing I kind of want to let other mothers know is that's okay. You don't always have to be at 110%. Some days CO's her hair is all over her head, and she's in a sleeper all day, and we trying to work in food at this point, applesauce and eggs and this, that, and third. And some days I'm just bottles, because I don't feel like mothering. You do the bare minimum, and that's okay, because as a mother, you take on so many different roles, you do so many different things, and so it can be a bit hectic, and you have to remember that it's okay to half-ass sometimes, because that's just what makes the day go by. That's how you gonna get through it, because what other, choice do you have? You exhaust yourself, and then you still, things are half-assed. So, I feel like, I do my best. Every day I do my best, and that can change. The definition of best, it changes from day to day. Sometimes best could be wake up at 7 a.m. She's had applesauce, her hair is done, she dressed. I'm on work, she watching TV, I feed her about. And some days best is like, we waited. We woke up, and that's as best as I can do at this point. And I'm okay with that. It took me a while to be okay with that, because I was afraid of what other people would say about what I considered my best. But I've learned to just be like, to heck with what other people have to say. You don't know my kid, you don't know me, and you don't know how we live and what it takes to really get through a day. So I just do my best. I do what I think I can do, and I don't do anything more than that. And life now, like I said, it's hectic, but we're getting somewhere, and we're working through it. That's really it. We're work in progress. And yeah, we're working through it. I'm optimistic.